Welcome everybody who has come for this webinar 258 on this date of December 17, 2023. And this webinar is episode 8 of our series Understanding Hinduism. We will be looking at Hinduism from various angles of view, and what we are going to do in this webinar is to pursue the question, does Hinduism provide space for questioning, reasoning, logic, and so on, or does it demand unquestioning faith? Is it based on Shraddha only, or does it leave room for inquiry, questioning, and so on? Generally, in the domain of bhakti, that is devotion, to a great extent, shraddha, faith is emphasized. No wonder, therefore, Sri Ramakrishna, the great champion of bhakti marga, said, doubt is death. Sri Ramakrishna doesn't have to say, even Sri Krishna in the Gita, in certain context, says, samshayatma vinashyati. Those who always doubt, those who always look at scriptures with a negative view, presuming that they cannot be right, imagining that scriptures are just somebody's wild imagination, and so on, they will not stand a good chance of realizing that liberating truth. Gita, for that matter, Upanishads also, do emphasize on Shraddha. In Kathopanishad, there are two mantras towards the end of the Upanishad, where it is said, Asti iti upalabdhavyaha. In order to get the benefit of the highest realization, Asti iti, one has to begin with Astikya. There is Brahma, there is some truth. Or it is as simple as how, even in mundane scenarios in our day-to-day life, when there is a certain problem, those of us who somehow feel there has to be a solution to this and I will find out, will get going. Those who raise their hands saying nothing can be done, we are doomed, we are now lost, we have no chance, those pessimistic approaches to life's challenges, those people with such pessimism will not go far. We have to be optimistic. We have to have faith. Therefore, in countless areas of life, faith has a place we cannot deny. But coming to spirituality and to how Hinduism looks at this matter, we would say that Hinduism encourages or very much permits people to ask questions at the right time, in the right way, and so on. However, it very politely and lovingly says to us that there are certain truths in life, in this world, in this universe, which are beyond human reason. Reason is like a tool, reason is like an instrument. However sophisticated an instrument may be, it has its limitations. It may go very far, but that's about it. There is a point where it can not go further. All instruments are like that. They have certain maximum limits. Likewise, the intellect of ours has certain limitations. Therefore, we take this up. Let me at this point of time, share some slides which will make our job easier too. So we have the 8th episode of Hinduism series, Understanding Hinduism, episode 8. And the topic of special interest in this session is reason versus faith in Hindu scriptures. What I am going to say will apply to both dharma and moksha. Please do not imagine that faith and reason have to go hand in hand only in moksha shastra, in the Upanishadic context. It's not so. Even in the dharma context, what is the right thing to do? What is right behavior? What is right choice in certain confusing scenarios? So, about doing, about saying, about even thinking, what to think and what not to think, there is the issue of dharma. So, dharma shastras also require a blend of reason and faith. Moksha shastra, the science of liberation, too, is like that. In moksha shastra, in the context of Upanishads, and most of us are very much into study of the Vedanta. In the Vedanta, it is said the ultimate truth can be known in three ways. All three are involved, all three are required, using three tools, using three instruments, going by three approaches, we can know the highest truth. First is Shruti. We must study the scriptures. We must not be so arrogant to say, I don't need any book. I don't want anybody else to tell me how to live and so on. That is very arrogant behavior. We would rather say, don't be blindly studying any book. Study the book. It will sometimes give you astounding revelations, and some other time, these books, as though, hold your hand and guide you to your own discoveries. Take the help of Shruti. Shruti is sometimes a synonym of Veda. Take help from the Vedas and go ahead in exploring finer, deeper dimensions of your own life, of your own existence. Then comes the second word in the set of three, Shruti, Yukti, Anubhuti. The second is Yukti. Yukti means reason. Yukti means logic. Yukti means using our brain and finding out, is this possible? Is that possible? This looks very contradictory. This looks quite within the frame of what can happen. So, Yukti is reason. The third instrument that is required, all three are required, is Anubhuti. We are never tired of saying or clarifying that Anubhuti is not a matter of sensory experience, feeling hot or cold, listening or hearing some sound of a ringing bell or a flute, and so on. Spiritual aspirants, spiritual seekers who have been doing some practices for a while often claim, oh, this morning in my meditation, I found my room was lit up and I opened my eyes. Is it so? And believe me, my room was indeed brightly lit up, and there was such fragrance in my room. Ah, well, we do not dismiss such possibilities, but for knowing the ultimate truth, such sensory experiences, that is, seeing light or hearing some pleasant sound or smelling something very wonderful, they have no role to play. They have no place in the understanding of the supreme truth. Then why is Anubhuti mentioned? Anubhuti is a synonym of Anubhava. Therefore, we do not hesitate to translate it as experience. You may want to call it inner experience, so be it. But what is it which we are calling experience? Experience is just as if I ask all of you now, do you think that you exist? Are you alive? Are you in front of your computer or mobile screen? Or you are not sure whether you are or you are not? Will you not say, if there is anything most self evident, it is my own presence? I am. I know it. Don't ask me to prove I am. I know I am. Therefore, a certain experience, it's also another kind of experience. I am. In deep sleep, I am. In dream, I am. In waking, I am. In pain and pleasure, in celebration and lamenting, I am. So, I am is a certain truth which is unquestionable. And the Vedanta shows through its revelations and providing us some ways to reason, it shows to us that the liberating way, the way to liberate yourself is to take cognizance of, to note very clearly that everything comes and goes, but I am is the truth. And Vedanta says, hold on to that I am. Hold on to the basic sense of existence. Don't take any other ideas, self images, notions of I won or I lost, etc. seriously. Don't be carried away by them. Be as I am. That will set you free. Therefore, Anubhuti is certain experience, not emotional experience, not physical experience, not sensory experience, but it's a certain experience of your existing, no matter what the external conditions are. So, Shruti, Yukti, and Anubhuti, scriptural revelation, that is Shruti, logic or reason, that is Yukti, and inner experience, that is Anubhuti, are involved in coming upon liberation, in gaining the highest knowledge. One of the simple but beautiful works by Ādi Shankarāchārya is Sadhana Panchakam. Panchakam because it has 5 verses, and sadhana is the 5 verses give to us very many sadhanas. That means things to do, exercises to do. It begins with Vedo Nityam Adhiyatam. Study the Veda regularly. Taduditam Karma Swanushthiyatam. And perform what is advised by the Vedas. And so on. So each shloka has 8 instructions. 5 shlokas, 40 instructions. 40 instructions put into 5 shlokas constitute this great work called Sadhana Panchakam. In that text, it is said, referring to tarka, logic, reason, it says, Dustarkat Suviramyata. You may get into reason, logic, you may ask questions, you may argue about something, but for heaven's sake, please keep away from false logic, from some kind of argumentation where your own heart knows that you are not searching for truth anymore. You are, you are diverted by some intention to defeat the other person, some intention to project yourself, some intention, hidden agenda of messing up things. disrupting things, disturbing things. Maybe you are jealous of that other person. And when he is speaking beautifully and 100 people are appreciating it, you raise your hand and say something to unsettle that speaker, to divert him or her. Then that is dustarka, that is kutarka. It is said somebody wanted to show to an audience that the housefly is able to hear through the legs. Through the legs, the housefly hears. And people said, how do you say that? He had a trained housefly. He put the housefly on the table and said, jump. And the fly jumped, flew. He caught hold of it again, put it on the table, cut one leg of it, and then said, jump. Again it jumped, second leg, third leg. I guess a fly has 6 legs. So he cut the 5 legs, and then also it made a move. When he said, fly, jump, move, it moved. Then he cut the 6th leg. Then said, fly. It did not jump, it did not fly. How can it? All its legs are gone, and it must be suffering a lot. And then he says to the audience, see, it was this 6th leg which was helping it all the time to hear my words. Now that I have cut the 6th leg, it is not hearing anymore. Therefore, the 6th leg had the hearing organ. Unlike us, the fly doesn't have ears, you see. This is all dustarka, kutarka. This, of course, is a very simple example. Elsewhere, we have such logic. Somebody says impatiently, if God is all powerful, why doesn't he just lift his hand and say, may all be liberated? Enough is enough. May everybody be enlightened. If he has the power to do anything, he could do that, right? And so on. Well, who are you to advise God how he should run this world? It would be good for you to be a bit polite, to be a bit reasonable, and get a good understanding of what is meant by God. Don't imagine God in your own fanciful way, and as though that is not enough, don't ask God to do things the way you would fancy. God knows how to run the universe which He has created. He created and He knows how to run it. You better inquire into the nature of your sorrow. Is sorrow given to you by God, or is sorrow created by yourself, by your own foolishness, by your own, in spite of 10 people telling you not to go near, you went near fire and put your hand into fire, and then you say, my hand is burning, and you want to blame the whole town for your hand burning. It is you who foolishly put your hand into fire. Likewise, here we say, with very little knowledge, with hardly any knowledge, don't pass judgments on the great scriptures, the Vedas, the Upanishads, on Hinduism in general. Don't knowing or without knowing basics of Sanātana Dharma, you want to make statements about Sanātana Dharma and want to say, I will eliminate or eradicate Sanātana Dharma, that is, to say the least, very childish. Dustarka suviramyata. Keep away from kutarka, dustarka. But there is a lot of logic which the Vedas themselves encourage us to get into. That is the second part of the quote from Sadhana Panchakam. Shruti matas tarkaha anusandhiyata. There is certain logic which the Shruti, the Veda, the holy book itself compliments. Yes, this is the way you should go ahead. Then what was earlier impossible becomes possible for you to understand. Radhakrishnan, the second president of the Republic of India, said beautifully. As most of you know, he was a professor of philosophy He taught at some college in Kolkata. Later on, he was the vice chancellor of Banaras Hindu University, a great academician who was respected worldwide. He knew the Vedanta too, and he made this very famous statement: religion is not against reason, it is beyond reason. There's a big difference between being against reason and being beyond reason. Being against reason means self contradictory or illogical, something that you and I would not like to accept. Whereas being beyond reason is where reason, which otherwise is a great tool in many contexts, falls short of what is required to know the highest truth. Therefore, reason falls short. Reason admits its limitations. There are certain things which are like that. Reason cannot go as high as those things. Therefore, religion is beyond reason. Don't think it is against reason. So we proceed further. How do scriptures generally place before us reason? One of the most common ways in which reasoning is done is using illustrations or drishtantas. Drishtanta is an illustration, and technically, what is illustrated is the Arshtantika. That may be a less known word. Now we have some examples here. Vedanta uses illustrations like the snake upon the rope. A rope in dim light is mistaken for a snake. Likewise, the non-dual truth. Really, there is no separation between the so-called other and the so-called I. I am something which pervades the object and the subject and so on. But this undivided non-dual truth, like the rope appearing as a snake, this undivided truth appears as though divided, as though there are others and there is me, there are objects and there is me knowing the objects, and so on. Vedanta intends to eliminate such a misconception, which is universal. Shankarāchārya, in the introductory portions of Brahma Sutra Bhashya, says, Ayam sarvatrikaha, sarvatra vartate, in the west or in the east or in the deep down under, Australia, New Zealand, and so on, everywhere all human beings are in the clutches of ajnana or avidya. A seashell looking like silver attracts you, thinking, wow, there is some silver, let me go grab it. But afterwards, you yourself figure out, or you take it, that shining seashell, to, to a jeweler. And he says, "Oh, sir, this is fake. There is no silver in this." Therefore, basically, without stretching the example unnecessarily, we would say the snake and the rope, or the silver and seashell, they are to convey the truth. Just as there can be an error in seeing things properly in the outer world, there can be an error in knowing oneself. You may mistake yourself to be something limited. It seems 10 men were crossing the river and they were very foolish. After crossing the river, one of them says, "Stand all of you in a line, I will count." And he counts 9 and imagines the 10th man is dead, without realizing he himself was the 10th man. This is also an illustration, almost like a little story. Then somebody comes along and helps these people. What went wrong? You counted others, did not count yourself. Like that, Vedanta smilingly says to us, you learn so many things in the world, you go places, you enjoy so many objects of the world without knowing who you are, without knowing yourself rightly or truly. In the last prakarana of Mandukya Upanishad Karikas, called Alata Shanti Prakarana, there is an example. All of them serve as stepping stones to bringing reason, bringing logic in our spiritual journey. The illustration in the Alata Shanti Prakarana of Mandukya Upanishad Karikas by Sri Gaudapadacharya talks about a firebrand, a long stick at the tip of which, in the olden days, that's how they would do. Some cloth is tied like a little bundle. Oil is poured upon that cloth and that is set on fire. So there is a fire at the end of the long stick, and somebody rotates it. Somebody moves it in such a way and slowly increases his speed. He is moving it along the lines of a figure of 8, and after a while, somebody approaches from a long distance, approaches this spot, and from a distance in late evening or at night, the visitor sees a figure of 8 glowing, emitting light without realizing that that figure of 8 is a mere appearance. What there is actually a firebrand, burning fire at its tip. Same way, a lady thought she had lost her necklace, but after much search, suddenly she discovers the necklace, the precious ornament, is upon her own neck. And all these illustrations show the possibility of our not knowing ourselves, and then when we wake up to self knowledge. So, all these are about logic. When you think about them, slowly, what earlier appeared too tall a claim, what earlier appeared mere fancy, comes across as, it is possible. This is quite possible. Indian logic systems typically use 5 components or members of what they call a syllogism. So, in the 5 membered syllogism, Pratijna, Hetu, Udaharana, Upanaya, and Nigamana are used, especially in Nyaya, in Sankhya, those schools of thought. This method, this way, or this model of reasoning and arriving at some right conclusion is more found. Vedanta borrows from Nyaya and Sankhya, Vaisheshika and Yoga. Where appropriate, Vedanta draws from even the 5th school among Astika Darshanas, which is called Purva Mimamsa. Vedanta itself is called the 6th of the 6 Astika Darshana, theistic schools of philosophy, and Vedanta is called Uttara Mimamsa. Nyaya and Vaisheshika, Sankhya and Yoga, and Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa, they are the most well-known Astika Darshanas, theistic philosophies. Theistic here means primarily taking the authority of Vedas to be true. So, what are the 5 components of the syllogism? Pratijna. Somebody says, there is fire on the hill. He declares. And to those people who are not able to accept it on face value, who question him, how on the earth do you say there is fire on the earth, on the hill? He goes about establishing Pratijna, the declaration is followed by Hetu, a certain cause or reason. The man who comes running and says, there is fire on the hill, says, If you see that hill, there is smoke, and therefore there is fire on the hill. So pratijna is there is fire on the hill. Hetu is because there is smoke seen, because we are seeing smoke, there is fire on the hill. The expression fire on the hill, there is repeats in Hetu also. Then comes Udaharana. Someone who listened to him says, so what? If there is smoke on the hill, what makes you say there is fire? What you are seeing is only smoke. Don't say there is fire. Then the person who announced it brings a Udaharana. Udaharana is a parallel scenario. When in the kitchen smoke comes, lot of smoke rises, you may be sitting in a hall outside the kitchen. The smoke even comes to you and you start coughing. Oh, a lot of cooking is going on inside. And the smoke is too much. Do something that there be no smoke like this, and so on. You see or you perceive smoke, you infer cooking using fire is going on. Like that, just as in a kitchen, when there is smoke, there has to be fire behind it. Here, in the case of the hill, when there is smoke, there has to be fire behind it. Therefore, Upanaya is connecting the example to the theme proper, and Nigamana, the fifth of the five member syllogism, says to us, therefore there is fire on the hill. Nigamana is saying the same which was said in Pratijna. Like in modern mathematical derivations, you first say, we will prove that the three angles in a triangle always add up to 180, not less, not more. They pratijna. And then you go down some mathematical derivation. At the end you say, therefore we said the three angles A, B, C at the three corners of a triangle. In a triangle where all three sides are equal, it is 60 degrees, 60 degrees, 60 degrees. Another triangle could be having one angle 90 degrees and the other two could be equal, though don't have to be 45 each. So 90 plus 45 plus 45, 180. So one or two examples may be given, but through some other forms of logic, finally it is proved. Then you say QED, some Latin or some French expression, which all of which means this was what was to be proved, or this is what was to be proved, and we have proved it now, and so on. So, Indian logic system, especially gone into in great detail in the school of thought called Nyaya. Nyaya and Vaisheshika go a lot into logic. Logic is called Nyaya, logic is called Tarka, and Karyakarana Bhava, and so on. That is very much used in Hindu religion, Hindu Dharma Shastra, Hindu Moksha Shastra. Now, giving an example of Upanishads for an illustration. In Mundaka Upanishad, there is the beautiful illustration. And the illustration is used to help us appreciate the declaration of Upanishads as quite logically possible. Let's see what the illustration is. Yathornana visrajate grunhate cha. That's how it begins. It has three illustrations in the same mantra, but we'll take a look at this. Yatha urnanabihi, just as a spider brings forth from inside its body a waxy substance and srijate creates a web. Much before people created the World Wide Web, WWW, Mr. Spider, I don't know how many thousands or tens of thousands or more years before, had created his web, spider's web. And what is wonderful about the spider's web is, at his will, the spider can take back the waxy substance into its own body. That is grihnate. Srujate grihnate. Like that, God or Brahman brings forth this entire universe, all space, all time, come from him, and they go back into him, and he doesn't need any external matter or external agent. He doesn't need anybody's help. In fact, there is nobody other than him. There is nothing other than him. So as Vedanta goes strong on saying Brahma is one without a second, all that there is Brahma only. Sarvam khalu idam Brahma. If somebody says, how can it be? God, I agree, God is in the heaven, but this entire universe, this world, these are also there. Don't say God is everything. Then it is said, this world, these galaxies, these stars, all of them are like the waxy web that has come out. Anytime it can go in, it is never apart from God. So does Veda all the time say, go for logic, go for reason, follow this illustration, follow that example, you will get enlightened? We would say not really. If anybody excessively depends on logic, he is told by mere logic you cannot realize the highest truth. Kathopanishad has a famous line. Esha matihi tarkena na apaneya. Esha matihi, this understanding. Tarkena, by mere logic. Na apaneya, cannot be got. This understanding cannot be got through mere logic. Naisha tarkena matirapaneya, says Lord Yama to Nachiketa, Kathopanishad. So please see the important word in brackets, mere. Logic has a place. But if somebody says by mere logic, with no shraddha, no vishwasa, no open mind to know something new, you go by hard, strong logic alone, then you cannot. Therefore, Vedanta itself cautions us that logic cannot be unduly depended upon. But Vedanta says you must be logical, you must not be simply heart oriented. Use your common sense, use your ability to distinguish the false from the true, the improbable from what is possible. In Viveka Chudamani, we have a wonderful line, 16th verse says, Medhavi Purusho Vidwan Uhapoha Vichakshana. Somebody, Purusha means man or woman, a person who is intelligent, who is bright, who is able to use reason when required. And he or she is scholarly, Vidwan. Now, especially the next part throws light on the need for reason in Jnana Marga, on the path of knowledge. Uha means guessing by context possibility. Apoha, when you split this uha poha, it is uha, guessing the possibility, and apoha, dismissing certain other possibilities. Dismissing certain other possibilities. If you say you went to Delhi, and then you say, well, as soon as I reached Delhi, I became from 5 feet 6 inches, I became so short, just 2 feet 2 inches. 3 days I stayed there. When I came back again, I became 5 feet 6 inches. You will say, whom are you bluffing to? Don't bluff. Don't just say whatever comes to your mind. I cannot accept or agree. I cannot visualize you are becoming 2 feet 2 inches. Don't tell me these cock and bull stories. But you went to Delhi? Possible. You came back from New Delhi? Possible. But you became small, you became big. Not you, at least. Hanuman might have done it. Hanuman is divine with extraordinary capacities, powers. Uha apoha vichakshanaha. So Vivekachudamani says such a person is fit. It's an eligibility criterion. You are eligible for especially the path of knowledge, that is Upanishads. You are eligible if rather than taking things just out of faith, you reason it out. What? Is it really possible? And so on. Therefore, at a certain place, Swami Dayananda Saraswati wrote at length about two kinds of logic. And he admits that you cannot have proving logic in your intellect. You cannot have proving logic about Brahman, nor can you have proving logic about moral values. Why should we speak truth? By mere logic, you cannot establish it. You can go quite far with logic. But somebody else, the other one, the opponent says, no, 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 but without truth also. If you say, if we speak truth, then there will be more peace of mind. The other person would say, I will show you, telling lies, making a lot of money in some corrupt ways, you can also be peaceful there. So, by mere argument, it's not possible to know either dharmic values or Brahman, which is beyond dharma. Okay, quickly, what is supporting logic and what is proving logic? You go to a party and you see outside a certain blue car and you recognize this car. Oh, this car belongs to Smita, my cousin. Oh, Smita has come to this party. Very nice. Long time since I met her. And so on. So you see, you not only saw the blue car, but you even knew the license plate's number. Oh, yeah, this number I know because that is my mother's birthday. Four numbers, four digits, month and date are given. I have said to Smita on some occasions, your car number is my mother's birthday. I'll never forget Smita. And today, that car is here. So the car of Smita is here, therefore it is supporting logic. When you go inside, you find Smita has not come to that party. Very rarely she lends her car to anybody else. But today, she has actually allowed her sister Kaveri to drive her car and attend this party. So I meet Kaveri. You meet Kaveri and ask, Smita has not come? No, no, she gave me her car. I took her car and I have come. She says Kaveri. So, seeing the blue car and concluding that Smita must be inside is halfway only. Whereas if you had actually seen Smita inside, car or no car, you go inside and see Smita, she comes walking up to you and say, hi, how are you? Long time we did not meet. How are things? You actually meet, talk to Smita, that is proving logic. Then there is no doubt. So a lot of things show sambhavana, they say in Hindi. In Sanskrit also that word is there, though in some South Indian languages, sambhavana can mean, you know, some dakshina or some monetary financial gift that an organizer may give to a singer or a speaker and so on. Let's not go more into the language. In Sanskrit, sambhava and sambhavana has the meaning as you have in Hindi too. But somewhere else, sambhava can mean birth. Kumara sambhava, birth of Subramanya as the son of Shiva. There it is not possibility of Kumara. Kumara is Subramanya. So every word has many meanings, supporting logic and proving logic. This slide is important. You know why? In spirituality, in both Dharma Shastra and Moksha Shastra, we have plenty of supporting logic for the truths enunciated there. What does it mean? The logic that these scriptures give us show to us the possibility. Yes, it can be like that. I would not say it cannot be like that. But in order to realize it is so, see the difference? First one is it can be so. Smita can be inside. Her car is here. But Smita is inside. Is another step, right? In spite of the blue car parked outside, Smita could not be or could be absent inside. Like that, I am different from the body and mind is a possibility. Yeah, quite possible. I am through spiritual ignorance attached to and identified with this body, with this personality. Though difficult to swallow, possible, possible. When you say this is possible, various examples are given. Vivekananda talked about a certain lion cub that at the time of birth itself got separated from his mother, got mixed with a herd of sheep, and thought he too was a sheep. He was raised amidst sheep. But then in that story, down the road, the lion cub has an adult lion coming from the forest, and the adult lion takes away this lion cub from amidst the sheep. And then the lion cub, which is very afraid because it thought it was a sheep, then it realizes, oh my God, I am not sheep. I am a lion. I belong to the forest, etc. So self-discovery. Lion cub discovering itself to be the lion. Lion cub which mistook itself to be sheep, discovering itself to be lion. So that is all supporting logic. Possible. I too could be like the lion club. Maybe I have tremendous potential, capacity to do things, to love, to be lovable, to remain calm, to get going even against all obstacles. Possible, possible. When you say possible, it is supporting logic, whatever made you think so. Proving logic is a beautiful combination of Shruti, Yukti, and Anubhuti provide you the proving logic. So, in both Dharma and Moksha, there are lots of things. Be honest, it is said it is a moral teaching. But many of us, in spite of knowing it, even advising others to be honest, are at times compromising. That itself shows that reason has failed. Reason cannot establish the necessity to speak the truth 100%. There can be a lot of reason given to make you appreciate, I like this logic. I think I agree with you. Are you sure? Nobody is sure about honesty, about non-violence. So it is said, probably in the Manusmriti, Atindriya Vishayeshu Vedaha Pramanam. Veda is the means of knowledge in things that are beyond senses, beyond sense perception, and here you may add by force of context, Veda is the pramana, means of knowledge in matters which are beyond reason. Brahma is beyond reason. Satya is beyond reason. Lots of human values. Why should I be clean? Why should I be respecting elders? Why should I be disciplined? These disciplined people don't enjoy life at all. I don't want to be like them. I will throw all discipline to the winds and enjoy my life. Somebody may say. For him, though some elders had advised him, nothing was convincing. I'm not convinced about a disciplined life. And so on, he says. So not only he didn't receive enough reason, but all available reason may fail against some people. So reason alone, tarka matrena brahma pina siddhyati, Satyam na siddhyati, dharmaha na siddhyati. Nothing is established. However, I'll say one last thing before concluding. Adi Shankara himself says in certain places in his Bhashya, if the Vedas say fire is cold, don't accept it. That means Vedas could be wrong. Shankara would never say some sentences in Vedas could be wrong. He says, wait a minute, if somewhere Vedas have said fire is cold, then don't accept that the fire as we know can ever be cold. That's impossible. Fire by nature is hot. Then why is this mantra saying fire is cold? It perhaps is using the word cold or fire in a symbolic, in a figurative manner. Or read the whole mantra, whole paragraph. Down the road, there might be a sentence. Above were given the sentences which foolish people make. Fire is cold, says a fool. That says a fool could be coming later. So, examine. Therefore, there are some issues where a lot of detailed study is required. When we say Vedas are the Pramanam, nobody is saying accept Vedas blindly. Study regularly, study with competent teachers and ask them. Even Bhagavad Gita says, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Pariprashnena, ask questions at the right time and not at the wrong time. You have just joined the school and then next morning you go to the teacher. Before I continue in this Patashala, in this Gurukula, I have these 108 questions to you, sir. If you answer them, I will continue. Otherwise, I'm picking up my bags this afternoon after lunch. That is so childish and stupid. So bear with the teacher, give him some space, let him set up, let him clear, let him place before you a certain broad picture. Then, with his consent at the right time, politely raise your hand and ask a question. Therefore, summarily, reasoning, questioning, going about things logically is much encouraged, given a lot of space in Hinduism. But Hinduism does say that the higher truths are above reason. Use reason up to certain point, then you need to awaken your intuitive abilities. Talk up to some point of time, then learn when to be silent. Learn to be silent. Some distance along the path is words and words, but after that, it is silence, alert silence. Om Namah Paramarashibhyo, Namah Paramarashibhyaha. Yes. Now the floor is open for some questions and comments. Turn your microphone on. Yes, Dr. Pai. Yes.
Swamiji, one comment, Gita itself is a prime example where the questions are allowed. Where Arjuna asked 16 questions to Bhagavan.
Correct.
Number two is, if somebody is starting in a spiritual path in the beginning, I want your comment on this. If he has some questions or she has a questions, is it fair for her to wait until she dabbles into spirituality a little further, where the doubts get cleared much as she goes along, rather than ask the question, unless it's something that is very important? Sometimes we end up asking questions which are, if she waits along, they get cleared. Third one is, in my path, in spiritual path, I come to a conclusion. If there is any doubts, I found out that the intelligent does not accept anything that has doubt. It will continue to bother you.
Correct. So first question I think you asked was, suppose a girl has some doubt, should he wait till she enters into certain spiritual program, or can she ask questions before even that? Of course, she can ask the questions anytime to some elders, to some teacher who might be visiting her parents. She happened to be there. She just says, "Sir, I have a question for you." She may. But if there are some technicalities involved, there are some definitions of words involved, it may become a bit difficult. But a competent and kind teacher will, for her sake, define some primary words and then go ahead. That was the questions are welcome, because let me put it this way. In one sense, we do talk about enrolling for a course in Vedanta and so on. In another sense, there is no such compartmentalization. The the learning Vedanta has begun for us from early childhood itself. Informal ways. So, from a higher point of view, all life is opportunities to learn. So, any child may ask, but the effectiveness and whether it meets with expected results will depend on her own clarity. The question also has to be asked in a very clear way. Teacher should not be wondering what the question was. But no blanket objection to asking questions. Even a child can ask a question. Can you just repeat the second one?
I was not talking about objecting for the question. I'm talking about delaying the question if you are in the spiritual part in the beginning. Anyhow. Third was, intelligent usually does not accept if there's any doubts in the knowledge.
Correct. It bothers them. Yeah.
Yes, for in my sense, in my spiritual path, if there's doubts, I would get bothered by it over and over again.
Yeah, true. In fact, that is very healthy. That is how we go on rising in our knowledge, in our wisdom. Otherwise, as the idiom goes, we sweep the dust under the carpet. In fact, in Gita says, Shraddhavan labate jnanam tatparaha sanyatendriya. If we don't have enough Shraddha, if we don't have enough self-control, if we don't have enough focus, like that idiom once more, sweeping dust under the carpet, we will be, though bothered by a doubt, attracted to some pleasure, some enjoyment. We say we'll look into this question later. Therefore, not that everybody should become a Himalayan ascetic, but all of us need to have a certain degree of Shraddha, Atma Sanyama, and Ekagrata. Then only we will be pursuing the questions, going behind them. Narendranath Datta went on asking many people, and when he asked his some European professor, that European professor said, I have not seen God, but there is a man whom they call a madman. He can answer your question. And Vivekananda goes there, Narendranath Datta, and asks Sri Ramakrishna, have you seen God? I can visualize, and I'm sure all of you can imagine, the way Narendra Datta asked that question would be so different from how you and I might ask. Many times we also ask any guru coming to the town, but we may not be so much into that question. Narendranath Datta, surely very intelligent, but much bothered by a question that was pricking him. Right.
Thank you.
Oh, welcome. Okay.
Swamiji.
Yeah, Subramaniam has a question.
Yeah, right. I have more of a clarification. You talked about silence, silence. They talk about communication in silence. And I was reading, the Razor's Edge, that novel, Somerset Maugham, and where the character Larry, comes to Ramana Maharshi. I think the author himself, and he sits in front of Ramana Maharshi in silence, and then he says all his doubts were clear. like enlightened teacher, association with the enlightened teacher, and that silence, does it have, I mean, just I want your, that communication in silence, if you can elaborate,
Yeah. I, for one, have always believed in certain powers with people. So, illumined beings like Sri Ramana Maharshi surely could pass on some grace, pass on, if not the answer to the question, they can pass on some energy to the person sitting there. Thanks to that energy, the person finds out answer by himself. So their touch, their glance, our being near them, such things also can make a big difference. So these are all beyond our modern science. One day modern science will find some basis for those things. Therefore, in what I said in my lecture also, this not only in Brahma Vidya, but even Dharma Shastra. So a visitor to a sage like Ramana Maharshi might be having sometimes a moral doubt. And by sitting in the presence of Maharshi and Maharshi gazing at him for some time, he may get an answer to the Dharma Adharma issue also. So both in Dharma Shastra and Brahma Vidya, the flow of wisdom or just flow of energy and enthusiasm can take place from a heightened personality.
Thanks so much.
Okay, we will accept 3 more questions. So, yes, yes,
Rao. Many times this question comes to my mind, is just for clarification I am seeking. You are feeling deep inside with whatever knowledges which you would have acquired or experiences, the truth of in a particular situation. A person who is not so much exposed to that sort of a thinking process goes into an argument. How do we convince them in such situations where you are deep down, you are convinced about the truth in a given situation? The truth appears to be, when it debated, the truth is not that really truth. That is, it becomes subjective.
Mm-hmm.
So in my opinion, there is a particular time or in the life cycle, that person has to reach that level to question himself, then he gets that real truth answers.
Mm-hmm.
He gets convinced.
Yeah.
When he is not matured enough, a day is expected that day only he may be very intelligent,
yeah,
very great, very everything in their professions. They would have done that job very nicely, no doubt. Even today, in the context of today's, there may be a professor, maybe a scientist, maybe a doctor, anything. When it comes to this absolute truth, the realizations come only when once he is absolutely matured in a higher plane. That means the buddhi, crossing the buddhi only is feasible to get the truth. Is it true?
Yeah, this is a difficulty that all of us face at times. We are convinced, but the other person is not able to see the way we see. The other person goes on arguing. I agree with you. The other person who uh, refused to cooperate with us, refused to be receptive to what we are saying, and went on dismissing it. When the right time comes, he himself will understand.
That right
Maybe
time,
there's a mellowing down also is involved.
Yeah.
So, and he gets exposed to many scenarios. He reads things, he listens to other speakers. Then one day he may say, "Oh, that day I went on, saying no to such and such person, but what he said was true. I didn't realize that day." That kind of
that may be a guilty feeling, and I'm relating it in general between the generation gaps.
Yeah.
This generation gap, it always exists, is is a
Yeah.
feeling which I am getting it. The reason being,
Always, yeah.
whatever you say, that experience being not there with them,
Correct.
it goes into only argumentation and nothing to do with the convincing.
Yeah.
So you have to accept it and then go ahead without
Yeah,
bothering.
yeah. True. Do the best, leave the rest.
In
Also-
majority of the cases, I am observing it only in that argument, it with youngsters.
Yeah. That's sometimes it can be very painful.
It is painful for you because you feel that they should also enjoy that level with freedom and then do the job, but you are not able to convince them.
Correct. Yeah. We try to give them a piece of wisdom, but then they give us more vairagya. Basically, our ahankara gets a blow.
No, since you want to leave that ahankara, then you don't want to get.
Okay, 2 more questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything in the chat box? Probably not. Only greetings are there, not questions. All right. Very good. We'll meet again 2 weeks from now, 31st of last day of this year. There will be a webinar either by me as announced or by the substitute. I will also attend, but someone else may speak. Om Namah Shivaya.